Hello everyone and welcome to another random bits and pieces segment from my brain, and today, still a while, for we are playing some more Franchise Hockey Manager 6 as part of the Ottawa Senators. So we are about to play March 2007, and in pretty much any given hockey season, at least in the NHL, March is typically the busiest month for a team in terms of games played, and it appears that it's not going to be any different this year for us. We have a whole bunch of games listed, and it's only up to March 20th, so there's probably like 5 or 6 more games scattered after March 20th, so it's going to be a busy month. Looks like it's split pretty evenly between away and home games. So we'll see what happens there. So we still have Marianosa and Brooks Light that are day-to-day, so they may or may not play soon, or soon-ish, I should say. That's pretty much it. That very surprisingly, the trade deadline is not in March this season, so there's not a whole lot of roster tinkering that can be done or anything like that, so we're kind of past that point. Remember, I did trade Chris Neal, so long time Ottawa fans might feel bad or not like the fact that I have traded him, but I did. I have to think with my head, not with my heart. So that's pretty much where we're at. So we're gonna go ahead and start. We're starting the month on the road here with a trip to Atlanta against the Trashers, but that's tomorrow. So let's see how Eugene Melnyk feels about me first. And other things. Alright, so Christian Backman in LA is back from suspension, back in the lineup. Suspension for Alexander Zvitov in St. Louis is going to miss 5 games. Greg Zanon is also suspended in Pittsburgh. He's going to miss 6 games. Eugene Melnyk is very happy with your work as general manager, so we're good here. And Marianosa is ready. Oh, so Jeff Carter is going to be available this summer, apparently. That's the first time I've seen a news like that. So apparently the Flyers made an offer, Jeff Carter turned it down, so Jeff Carter is probably going to be available. I probably cannot afford him. I'd like to have Jeff Carter on the team. I think he's a pretty solid player, but I don't think I can afford him, so we're not going to think about it. Or at least we're not going to try to think about it. Now, when comes July 1st, I might take a look for sure. But anyway, so we are about to play the Trashers. They are pretty good. They are 33, 26, and 6. That's still good for third in the East, so they are top of their division. We are 3-0 against the Trashers this year. Let's see if we can beat them for the 4th time. Brian Elliott is going to be in net for the Sens, and Peter Budaj is going to be in net for Atlanta. And we won 2-1, so pretty tight game. We outshot Atlanta 33-24 in that one. Martin Havlat was the first star. He had a goal and an assist. Toby Enstrom was the second star with an assist. And Sheldon Surrey was the third star with a goal. So Martin Havlat opened up the scoring in the first period. It was on the power play from Alexei Yashin. And it was 1-0 Sens after 1. Then there's been a whole bunch of penalties in the first period as well. And then in the second period, Atlanta tied the game, but shortly after, Sheldon Surrey scored from Marianosa and Martin Havlat. It was 2-1 Sens after 2. Nobody scored in the third period, so that means that 2-1 was our final score today. Coach report on new players. And Brooks Like is also ready to go. So we officially do not have any injuries anymore. Yevgeny Artyukin is available. So is Ben Clymer. No and no. Shea Weber extends his assist streak to 9 games with an assist against the Kings. Suspension over for Raffi Torres. Back in the lineup for the Islanders until he gets suspended again. At least that's what real life Raffi Torres would do. Alright, we are about to play the Blackhawks in Chicago. So that's going to be the first time we play them this season. So back in those years, you weren't even playing against every single team in the league. And like teams like the Blackhawks, we would only play once, and it would, like, this year it's gonna be in Chicago. Now if next year we play Chicago again, it's gonna be at home. They got rid of that pretty quick. It only lasted a few years. It was terrible. I didn't care for that type of schedule at all. Actually, I kind of like chaos a little bit when it comes to scheduling and everything. What I would love, what I know is never going to happen, but what I would love would be to, once you have your 16 teams, when you have your 16 teams to make the playoffs, then they would get seeded 1 against 16, 2 against 15. So that means that in the first round, Ottawa could face Nashville, for example. And yeah, I know that it's never going to happen because they want, to have those rivalries and the playoffs and everything. But can you imagine having a Stanley Cup final of Montreal against Toronto or something, or Montreal against Boston? That would be crazy. But with the current playoff format, there's no way that can happen. So it's never going to happen, and I understand that you cannot really put aside the current rivalries that you see in the playoffs, in the slim chance that you have a bigger rivalry to face up in the Stanley Cup Finals. But it would kind of be cool to see what would happen. Would also maybe create a little bit more rivalries, between Eastern and Western teams. I mean, do I really feel any animosity or any kind of urgency when we play, the Kings? I mean, not really. I mean, I don't have anything against the Kings, but there's not really a rivalry then. We face them twice a year, and that's it. Anyway, alright, so about to play Chicago. Like I said, we did not play them this year. Chicago is 31-30-4, so I don't think that's good enough for a playoff spot. No injuries in Chicago, so what we see here is the best lineup that they can put on the ice. So Corey Crawford and Scott Clemenson in net, Duncan Keith, Kim Janssen, Brent Seabrook, Darren Quint, Chris Chelios, 43 years old. Oh, he's finally started to lose some ability. He is... Oh, sorry, he's not 42, that's his number. He's 45. And he is a 4-star player now, not 5 anymore. James Wisniewski and Numlin are the defensemen. So the D and the goaltending is actually pretty decent. Then up front, it's Tuomo Ruutu, Ethan Morrow, Tim Taylor, Terry Pyatt, it's Darcy Verrett, I think. Yes. Dave Bolin, Jim Slater, Miller Ronick, Nordstrom, Dowd, Fitzgerald, Cleary, and Mikko Koivu is in Chicago. Alright. The forwards are a little bit kind of shaky, but the D and the goaltending is pretty good, so their D and goalies can definitely steal one against us, and I hope it doesn't happen, but it could. Brian Elliott's going to be in net. Corey Crawford is going to face him for Chicago. And we won 2-0, so it's not like we put 7 or 8 there. So we did outshoot Chicago 42-17. Martin Havlat is the first star again, this time with 2 goals. Corey Crawford is the second star with 40 saves, and despite the loss. And Darren Quint is the third star, despite not getting any points. Martin Havlat opened up the scoring in the second period. It was his 15th on the power play from Mike Fisher, 1-0 after 2. And then in the third period, Martin Havlat scored again on the power play again from Joe Thornton, and it was 2-0 Sens, and that's how it ended. Nice little shutout victory. Shea Weber's assist streak ended at 9 games. Didn't get an assist against Anaheim. There was no stopping Pavel Demitra, who had a hat trick against Atlanta. Alright, and we are about to play Pittsburgh. So Sid the Kid's team is in town, so we're gonna be in Ottawa for a couple days here. So we're gonna host the Pittsburgh Penguins. So Pittsburgh is also really good. They are 46-16-3. That's good for second in the East, 10 points behind us. We did win the only game we've played against Pittsburgh this year. It was a 5-0 victory in Pittsburgh. And I always enjoy when we can beat a team that has top players like Jagr and Crosby. So if we can win, I would really like that. Marc-Andre Fleury is going to be in net for Pittsburgh. We're going to go to Brian Elliott. And we lost in overtime, or shootout. Look at us. Alright, so we outshot Pittsburgh 37-30. Jaromir Jagr was the first star of the game. He had 2 goals and an assist. Yeah, it was in overtime and not in the shootout. He has 3 points. Brian McCabe was the second star with a goal, and Sidney Crosby was the third star with 2 assists. 15,392 people in attendance for this game. So Jagr opened up the scoring in the first period. And then Brian McCabe scored his 15th from Matt Unwick and Mark Streit. So Matt Unwick that I got in the trade for Chris Neal. So tied at 1 after 1. Then there were a lot of penalties in the first period. And then nobody scored in the second period. There were again a lot of penalties in the second period. Then in the third period, Alexei Morozov gave the Pens a lead again. But then shortly after, Sheldon Souris scored from Joe Thornton and Jason Spezza. It was tied at 2. That would hold until the end of regulation. And then we went into overtime, where Jaromir Jagr played the hero by scoring the game winner on the power play. Bad news for Senators. Matt Unwick is injured, that I just recently acquired. Cervical hyperextension against Pittsburgh, 12 days. Okay, so I probably need to put him on injured reserve. Yes, and I will do so. Who am I getting back up? So we have Mark Fistrick. I think we're gonna get Tim Gleason up. Alright, so in a couple of days we're going to be playing at home against the Leafs, and it's going to be a home and home against them, so... Jeremy Roenick has accomplished 1,200 points in his career with an assist against Los Angeles. So, Jeremy Roenick, 37 years old. He is a 1.5-star talent now. Sean Avery is back from suspension in St. Louis. RJ Humberger has a great game with the Canucks. He had a goal and 4 assists against Tampa Bay. And Matthias Nordstrom is available. I do not require his services. Alright, so we are about to play the Leafs. So we've turned things around against the Leafs a little bit. We've struggled against them this season. Toronto is now 35, 24, and 8. That's good for 7th in the East, and we are 3-3 against them this season. Alright, and Ty Conklin is going to be in net for Toronto, and Brian Elliott is going to be in net for us. And we won 6-4. We outshot Toronto 52-21. Brian McCabe was the first star. He had a goal and an assist. Adrian Aucoin was the second star with an assist, and Patrick Eves was the third star with a goal and 2 assists. We had 14,547 people in attendance for this game. So Toronto took a 2-0 lead into the first period, and then Brian McCabe scored from Patrick Eves and Martin Havlat, and it was 2-1 Leafs after 1. Then in the second period, we tied the game. It was Patrick Elias from Zdeno Chara, and then Toronto scored again, so they were up 1 again. And then we scored twice, so Alexei Yashin scored on the power play from Joe Thornton and Jason Spezza, and then Mike Fisher on the power play as well from Patrick Eves, 4-3 Sens after 2. And then Toronto tied the game at the start of the third period, but then late, Pavel Datsyuk scored from Joe Thornton and Anton Volchenkov, and then Patrick Eves scored short-handed from Brooks Lake and Brian McCabe. 6-4 is the final score in this game against Toronto. Alright, so Rob Collins is available. I am not picking him up. Jerome McGinley is back from suspension in Dallas. I would pick him up, but he's not available. I wouldn't mind having Jerome on my team. Milan Kraft and Jeff Giuliano are available. Alright, and we are about to play the Leafs again. We just played them, literally. This time it's going to be in Toronto, so now after their loss against us, they are 35, 25, and 8. They're still 7th in the East. Alright, Brian Elliott in net for us, and Ty Conklin in net again for Toronto. So same matchups. Let's see if it's a different result for the Leafs. Hopefully not. And we won 5-2. We outshot Toronto 58-20. Joe Thornton was the first star. He had 2 assists. Pavel Datsyuk was the second star with a goal and an assist, and Mark Streit was the third star with a goal. Sheldon Surrey opened up the scoring in the first period. It was his 13th from Joe Thornton. It was 1-0 Sens after 1. And then in the second period, Mark Streit scored from Mike Fisher and Pavel Datsyuk. It was 2-0 after 2. And then quite a few goals were scored in the third period. So Daniel Alfredson made it 3-0 for us, scoring on the power play from Chris Kelly and Zdeno Chara. Then Toronto scored twice to come to within 1. And then Patrick Elias scored his 15th short-handed from Tim Gleason and Robin Regier. And finally, Pavel Datsyuk scored from Marian Hossa and Joe Thornton. It was 5-2, and there was 1:37 left to go in the game, so obviously Toronto didn't have enough time. Travis Moen is back from suspension in Buffalo, back in the lineup over there. Alright, and we're going to go on the road for one game against the Rangers in a couple days. Oh, Joe Sakic is not being suspended. That makes sense, I suppose. I cannot remember Joe Sakic being suspended. My guess is that he never was. I could be wrong. Dan Heinold is suspended in Carolina. He's going to miss 4 games. Alright, and then Dan McGillis and Christian Backman are both available on waivers. Alexander Zvitov's suspension ends, back in the lineup in St. Louis. Alright, and now we are about to play the Rangers. So it's a little difficult for the Rangers. So as I remember it, they were kind of hovering around 500 for quite a while. So now they've slid a little bit. They are 31, 35, and 3. That's good for 11th in the East. With not a lot of hope to make the playoffs, they are 12 points behind. So that's probably not happening for the Rangers. We are 2-0-1 against them. We did lose a game in overtime against them. Brian Elliott is going to be in net for the Sens. He's going to face the King, Henrik Lundqvist. And we lost 2-1, so the Rangers, despite not having a really good season, they've been kind of a pain in the butt for us. So we outshot the Rangers 33-22. Sergei Zubov was the first star. He had an assist. Jason Spezza was the second star with a goal, and Joey Crabb was the third star with a goal as well. Let's see. We open up the scoring in the first. It was Jason Spezza from Brian McCabe and Pavel Datsyuk. It was 1-0 Suns at that point. And then in the second period, the Rangers tied the game. And then finally, they took the lead in the third. And that was it. We lost 2-1. Greg Zanon suspension ends. So he is back in the lineup in Pittsburgh. Oh, that's not good for Chicago. So Dave Bolland is hurt with a broken bone in his elbow, and he's going to miss 5 months. Jay Leach is available. I'm not going to pick him up. Jordan Stahl lights the lamp for Pittsburgh. He had a hat-trick, 3 goals against the Devils. And now we are back at home, where we're going to play against the Islanders. So the Islanders are not doing good. They are last in the East. They are 23, 38, and 8. We are 2-0 against the Islanders this season. Let's see if we can beat them again. Roberto Luongo is going to be in net for the Isles, and we are still going to Brian Elliott. And we won 3-1. We outshot the Islanders 42-19. Joe Thornton was the first star. He had a goal and 2 assists. Chris Campoli was the second star with a goal. Now keep in mind, Chris Campoli is still with the Islanders. He did play for the Sens in real life, but I do not have him. And now Jason Spezza got the third star with 2 goals and an assist. 15,708 people in attendance for that game. Jason Spezza scored in the first from Joe Thornton and Pavel Datsyuk. It was 1-0 Suns after 1. Then in the second... Okay, that's weird. I've never seen that. So the Islanders scored to tie the game, and then Joe Thornton scored to put us to 2-1, but the first assist is missing, and then second assist is Jason Spezza. So I've never seen that where there's like an assist missing there. Then Jason Spezza scored in the third period on the power play from Joe Thornton. It was 3-1 Sens. Let's see if I... Is it in the stats here? Spezza, Datsuk, Thornton... No, it's just missing. That's so weird. Alright, Tom Rene's job is in jeopardy in Calgary. Calgary is struggling. They are 24, 38, and 9. So he might lose his job over that. Dustin Brown is suspended in LA. He's going to miss 7 games. In that same memorable night for Craig Conroy, who had 3 goals and an assist against Chicago. Prolific passing night for Kimmo Timonen, who had 4 assists in that same game. Right, and we're about to host the Philadelphia Flyers. Ooh, that sucks for Anaheim, and they're going to the playoffs too. So Andy McDonald has a ruptured bicep tendon, and he is going to miss 7 months. Yikes. Suspension for Eric Bogunicki in Columbus. He's going to miss a game. Alright, so we are about to play the Flyers, and we are going to be playing them at home. So the Flyers are 36, 26, and 9. That's good for 7th in the East. We are 2-1 against the Flyers this year. Let's see if we can beat them again. Jeremy Duchesne is in net for the Flyers. We are going to Brian Elliott. And we won 41. We outshot the Flyers 44-19. Alexander Radulov was the first star. He had 2 assists. Patrick Keyes was the second star with a goal, and Jason Spezza was the third star with 2 assists. 16,879 people in attendance for that game. So Joe Thornton opened up the scoring in the first period from Jason Spezza, and then Patrick Keyes scored his 5th from Alexander Radulov and Patrick Elias. It was 2-0 Sens after 1. There was a fight between Zdeno Chara and Darcy Tucker. Then in the second period, Alexei Yashin scored his 15th from Brian McCabe and Alexander Radulov. It was 3-0 Sens after 2. Chris Kelly made it 4-0 with his 10th on the power play from Jason Spezza. And then Justin Williams scored, and Brian Elliott didn't get a shutout, but we still got the W. No suspension for Edmonton's Jarrett Stoll, not suspended over there. And Eric Bogunicki already served his suspension, so he is back in the lineup. Matt Unwick is... yeah, he's ready, but he has to wait 2 more days. Alright, so we are going on a 4-game road trip, where we are going to start that in Pittsburgh against the Penguins. So Pittsburgh is 52-16-3. That's still good for 2nd in the East, and they are only 7 points behind us now. They've gained ground, and also they have beaten us earlier this month in overtime. Jaromir Jagr played the hero with the overtime winner. So now we're playing in Pittsburgh, so let's see if we can beat them. We're going to go to Ryan Metter. They are going to Marc-Andre Fleury, and we won 5-2. Alright, we outshot Pittsburgh 38-29. Joe Thornton was the first star. He had 3 assists. Zdeno Chara was the second star with 2 goals, and Sheldon Surrey was the third star with 2 assists. Alright, so Each team scored twice in the first period, so Alexei Yashin scored for us from Martin Avlat and Patrick Eves to make it 1-0. Then Pittsburgh scored twice to make it 2-1, but then Yashin scored on the power play from Joe Thornton and Martin Avlat, and it was tied at 2 after 1. Then in the second period, Patrick Elias scored from Sheldon Surrey to make it 3-2, and that was a game winner because Pittsburgh would never score again, although we did, or should I say Zdeno Chara did, with 2 goals in the third period. The first one from Sheldon Surrey and Joe Thornton, and the other one from Joe Thornton. 5-2 is the final score. Ooh, that might suck for Pittsburgh. So Sidney Crosby is day-to-day. He's suffering from dehydration. You're only 19, Sid, and you know it's taxing to play in the NHL, so you probably should, keep hydrated and stuff. I think it's funny that it's happening to Crosby, not because, just because he's always been known to be so mature and really know the game and everything, so he's dehydrated somehow. All right, so we are about to play in St. Louis against the Blues. So my girlfriend's niece and brother, that's their favorite team. So of course they are very happy that the Blues won the cup last year. Alright, so we are playing St. Louis in St. Louis. They are 35, 29, and 7, so that's decent. And of course we have not played them this year, so let's take a look at that lineup here. Alright, so Eric Johnson and Yann Laperriere are both hurt and are not going to play. Ben Bishop and Dan Ellis are in net for St. Louis. So right now they're both one-star goaltenders. Of course, Ben Bishop has a pretty big potential. Let's see if they keep him as opposed to what they did in real life. Then we have Cal Quincy, Igor Ulanov, Nicholas Wallin, Andrew Hutchinson, Brian Elmer, Roman Polak, and Andy Roach. Indeed, that's not too great. Sean Avery, Svitov, Shannon, Zinoviev, Bates, Riku Hall, Patrick Berglund, Anzus, McClement, Arkhipov. Oh, Denis Arkhipov. Wayne Primo, David Backus, Lee Stempniak, and Mark Rycroft. So that's a decent team. It's not the best, but it's alright. Yeah, I guess Arkhipov is struggling a little bit. 17 points in 64 games. That's not that great. Alright, let's see if we can beat the Blues. Brian Elliott is in net for the Suns. Dan Ellis is in net for St. Louis. And we won 4-1. We outshot St. Louis 35-21. Joe Thornton was the first star. He had 2 goals. Sheldon Surrey was the second star with 2 assists. And Pavel Datsyuk was the third star with an assist. So in the first period, we have Patrick Elias that scored from Marian Hossa, and then Joe Thornton from Pavel Datsyuk and Sheldon Surrey. It was 2-0 Suns after 1. Then in the second period, St. Louis scored, but then Mike Fisher scored his 15th from Chris Kelly. It was 3-1 Suns after 2. And in the third period, Joe Thornton scored his 15th as well from Sheldon Surrey and Jason Spezza. And 4-1 is how the Suns won this game in Missouri. Matt Unwick is back. Tim Gleason is going down. Ooh, Nicholas Lidstrom has arrived at 1,250 games played, so it's no secret that I'm a big Nick Lidstrom fan. So He did that against Calgary, and he did score a goal to celebrate that. So Nick Lidstrom is still a 4-star defenseman at 36 years old. Open ice leads to a productive night for Danny Briere, who had 4 assists against the Wild. We haven't heard a lot about Danny Briere, and he's already 29. Alright, memorable night for Alex Ovechkin, who had 3 goals and an assist against Buffalo. Chris Chelios has put up 1,200 points in his career with an assist against San Jose. So as I just mentioned earlier in the video, he is now 45 years old and a 4-star talent. So Doug Weight has reached 900 points in his career with an assist against Philadelphia. 36 years old, Doug Weight, 2.5-star player. So, and we are about to play the Panthers in Florida. So Florida is not doing all that great, but at the very least they are not dead last in the East anymore. But they're still not very good. They are 26, 37, and 10. We are 2-1 against the Panthers this season. And we're going to have Brian Elliott in net. They are going to go to Jason LaBarbera. I think that's the one we've faced every single time we've played them. And we won 2-1, so it wasn't easy in Sunrise for us. Even in shots, it was pretty tight. We outshot them 30-28. Brooks Laich was the first star. He had a goal. Nathan Horton was the second star with a goal, and Patrick Eliash was the third star with an assist. Right, so we open up the scoring in the second period with Matt Unwick scoring from Jason Spezza and Sheldon Surrey. Then Brooks Laich scored his 10th from Patrick Eves and Patrick Eliash. 2-0 after 2. Then Nathan Horton scored in the third period, and 2-1's our final score today. Marian Hossa is sidelined with a strained back muscle, and he's out for 3 weeks. Yikes. And Alexei Yashin played in his 1000th game. Did get a point. 33 years old, 2-star player. So Yashin has really started to decline there. Alright, so Marian Hossa goes on the injured reserve, and we are going to recall somebody. Alright, so there's a whole bunch of players with 38 points. I think I'm going to give Jacob Klippisch a shot at the NHL. It might be his only shot, and who knows, maybe he's going to, play well or something. That'd be cool. That would be a great story. Alright, suspension over for Dan Einout in Carolina. He is back in the lineup. Benoit Brunet has played in 1,000 games in the NHL now, playing for Tampa Bay. He did that against the New Jersey Devils. Didn't get a point in that game. Antoine Vermette in that same game had a great game. He had a hat-trick. Alright, and Klippisch wants number 20. Volchenkov has number 20. Uh, 17. You look like you're going to be fine with number 17. Good game for Jonathan Girard for the Edmonton Oilers, who had 3 goals and an assist against Colorado. Alright, and we are about to play the Tampa Bay Lightning. So there's 4 games left in March. So Tampa Bay is 30-42-3. They are 13th in the East. We are 2-1 against Tampa Bay this year. Let's see if we can beat them. So Brian Elliott in net for us, and Vasily Koshechkin in net for Tampa Bay. We won 2-0. Okay, that one wasn't that easy either. So we outshot Tampa Bay 51-12. Koshechkin was the first star of the game. Despite the loss, he made 49 saves. Francis Bouillon was the second star despite not getting any points. And Alexei Yashin was the third star with 2 goals. Nobody scored in the first period. Then in the second period, Alexei Yashin scored from Martin Havlat. It was 1-0. And then in the third period, Alexei Yashin scored again on the power play from Brian McCabe and Jason Spezza. And 2-0 was the final score. Nice little shutout. Ryan Kessler is suspended in Florida. He's going to miss 4 games. No additional missed time for New Jersey's Brian Rafalski, not suspended. Oh, Jay Feaster might lose his GM job in LA. The Kings are 35-31-10. That might not be enough to make the playoffs. Alexei Zamnov has tallied 500 assists in his career with an assist against Dallas. So 36 years old, Alexei Zamnov, he is a 1-star player now. And strong night for Tommy Santala in Buffalo. He had a hat-trick against the Leafs. Alright, and we are about to host the Boston Bruins in a couple days. Mike Selinger has a great game. He had a hat-trick, 3 goals against St. Louis. Todd Bertuzzi has reached 300 goals in his career against the Rangers. He had a goal and an assist. Todd Bertuzzi, 32 years old, 2-star player. Pavel Bure is suspended. He's going to miss 3 games. Alright, and we are about to play the Boston Bruins at home. Boston is 43-27-5. That's pretty good. That's good for 5th in the East. We are 5-0-1 against Boston. Let's see if we can get another W against them. Yevgeny Nabokov is going to be in net for Boston. Brian Elliott in net for us. And we won 4-3 in overtime, so that one was not easy. We needed extra frames for that. We did outshoot them 39-15. Patrick Eves was the first star. He had a goal and an assist. Patrice Bergeron was the second star with a goal and an assist. And Matt Unwick was the third star with a goal. 17,421 people in attendance for that game. Patrick Eves opened up the scoring in the first from Patrick Eliash and Anton Volchenkov. Then Jason Spezza scored his 40th from Joe Thornton. It was 2-0 at that point. And then Boston scored twice and made it 2-2 at the end of the first period. Then in the second, Brooks Like scored from Patrick Eves and Patrick Eliash. Made it 3-2 for us. But Boston tied the game again, and it was tied at 3 in the second period. And then finally, in overtime, Matt Unwick played the hero, scoring his 5th from Sheldon Surrey and Martin Havlat, and 4-3 was the final score. Jacob Klippisch improves at right wing. Alright, and we are going to host the Montreal Canadiens in 3 days. Mike Modano has a strong game. He had a hat-trick against Phoenix. Great night for David Backes, who had a hat-trick against Columbus. A good night for Sergei Mozyakin, who had a hat-trick against the Blues in that same game. Sergei Mozyakin extends his goal streak to 5 games with that hat trick. Alright, so the GM in Florida might lose his job. Florida is 26-41-10, and Sherry Basson is the GM over there. Might lose his job. Marian Osa is about 2 weeks out. Sergei Mozyakin extends his goal streak to 6 games with a goal and an assist against the Ducks. Ooh, the Kings decided to fire Jay Feaster. And Ron Extall is now going to be the GM for the Kings. So that's kind of interesting. Ron Extall, new GM for the LA Kings. Speaking of the Kings, that's an eventful day for them. Dustin Brown is back from suspension. Alright, and now we are hosting the Montreal Canadiens. So Montreal is 46-27-4. That's good for 4th in the East. We are 5-1-1 against Montreal this season, so that ensures we are going to get a winning record against them this year. And they're going to Carey Price. We're still going to Brian Elliott. And we won 1-0. Wow. Montreal actually outshot us in that game 29-23. Brian Elliott was the first star with 29 saves and the shutout. Stephen Weiss was the second star despite not getting any points. And Mike Fisher was the third star with an assist. So the lone goal of the game was scored in the first period, and it was Sheldon Surrey from Mike Fisher. That was it. Nobody else scored. Alright, and finally we are at the last game in March, and it's going to be against the Islanders in New York. And the Islanders are still last in the East with a 25-43-9 record. We are 3-0 against the Isles. We're going to Brian Elliott. They're going to go to Roberto Luongo again. And we won 41. We outshot the Islanders 41-23. Mark Streit is the first star of the game with a goal and an assist. Mike Fisher is the second star with 2 assists. And Matt Unwick is the third star with an assist. So the Islanders scored first, but then Pavel Datsyuk tied the game from Jason Spezza and Patrick Elias. It was tied at 1 after 1. And then nobody scored in the second period. And then in the third period, Joe Thornton scored from Matt Unwick and Mark Streit. Mark Streit scored from Chris Kelly and Mike Fisher. And then finally, Daniel Alfredson from Mike Fisher. It was 4-1 Sens, and that was the final score. Oh. So the Islanders just lost Chris Campoli against us with a fractured shoulder, out for 5 months. Right, and we are the 31st of March. I'm going to sim one more day so that we are in April. Adam Burish is available on waivers. Red light stays on for Marian Gaborik, who had a hat trick against the Colorado Avalanche. Pavel Bure is back in the lineup after serving his suspension. Alright. So the players of the month were Jaromir Jagr and yet again Brian Elliott. So maybe Alain Vigneault knew something I didn't. Who knew? We're winning the trophy every month. Or not the trophy, but the award, I guess. Alright, so we're gonna take a look at the standings here, especially now there's only a handful of games left to be played in April. So let's see. It looks like our first round opponent is going to be more than likely either Toronto, New Jersey, Philadelphia, or Boston. Actually, that's pretty much mathematically the only possibilities. Maybe Atlanta. Oh, Atlanta really crashed at the end of the season. They were third at top of their division when I started that video, and now they're like they're 9 points behind the Capitals. Wow, they must have had a really bad month. Alright, so let's take a look in the West, see where that's going over there. So in the West, it's Anaheim, Nashville, Edmonton, Columbus, Detroit, Minnesota, Colorado, and San Jose. So remember when we thought that maybe Detroit was going to miss the playoffs? Yeah, that's not going to happen now. Or at least it's very unlikely. So yeah, LA fired Jay Feaster. Now the stats we have, looks like Jason Spezza has a pretty decent shot at 100 points. That's way under his pace from last season. He's at 97 and 79, so in 3 games he needs to get 3 points. I think he can do it, but it's of course going to be kind of tight. Thornton has 85 and 79, Strite 55 and 73, Datsuk 53 and 79, and it starts to dwindle down from there. So a few people have had a few disappointing seasons. Now if we look in the entire league, we have Ovechkin at 50 goals, so we have at least one 50-goal scorer. Jagger's pretty close at 48. I don't think the others are going to make it. Then Crosby is the best passer with 76 assists, and Jagger is the best scorer with 120 points. Crosby has 116, and then it goes down to Spezza at 97. Alright, so it looks like we are going to be going into the playoffs yet again. So are we going to win a 6th Stanley Cup? Well, we're going to find out in the next episode, because it's going to be April and the playoffs. So I'm going to go ahead and save my game. And of course, stay tuned for the next episode to find out if I manage to win the cup for a 6th straight season. But for now, I want to thank you for tuning in for today, and if you've liked the video, feel free to like, subscribe, share, comment, all of that good stuff, and until I roll this game again, I'll see you guys next time. Thank you.